Let the record show all 9 council members are present. We already did the prayer and the Pledge of Allegiance. We'll go to number 2.
Executive session. 2A, Hunt Petroleum Corporation and Rosewood Resources, Inc. versus Texaco, Inc. et al. Case number 34-592, 25th JDC. Attorney L.V. Cooley, Councilmember Konovich.
I'll offer as for second.
Second.
Second by Dr. Gui.
Is he here?
Is Mr. Cooley here? Or will you you gonna handle it? All right.
Yeah, we're going to call him on the cell phone.
Let the record show we'll go into executive session at 4:35.
Got a vote.
Mr. Black? Mr. Bartholomew?
It passes 8 with 1 absent. Let the record show that we return from executive session at 4:42. Go to
Status report by the parish president. You're good, I'm sorry.
Am I on?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The number of COVID cases and vaccines as of Wednesday, June 27th. I'm sorry, June, I wish it was June.
June.
Okay, I wish, January 27th. Maybe I'll take my glasses off, okay. The confirmed positive cases we have now, as of now, is 1,555, up 47 cases from 120. The probable positive cases are 2082. That's an increase of 78 since January 20th. Our positivity rate is at 6.1. It's down 3.2 points from January 20th, and that's the 3rd week in a row it's decreased. Our death toll is 22, including 1 probable. Plaquemines' positivity rate continues to improve over the past couple of weeks. Just 2 weeks ago, like I said, it was 17.1. It went down to 9.3, and now it's at 6.1. The state vaccine update. The state is receiving approximately 58,000 vaccines each week via Operation Warp Speed, which is well below the demand. According to a conference call this morning, LDH doesn't anticipate receiving more than 58,000 until 4 or 5 weeks from now. There are 324 locations throughout the state that are administering the vaccine. LDH has advised that Delta Drugs has distributed over 600 vaccinations since the start of the program. On Monday, LDH agreed to transfer 100 vaccines from Core Drugs to Plaquemines Pharmacy due to assist with our 70-plus-year-old population. Plaquemines Pharmacy is distributing the vaccine to individuals that were on the list that were provided by the Council of Aging and Senior Watch program. LDH put in a request for 300 vaccines to go to Plaquemines Medical Center next week so they would be able to distribute via the mobile health bus to our residents on the East Bank and other portions of the parish, but we will not have confirmation on that delivery until Monday, February 1st. This is not guaranteed. The Louisiana Sheriff's Office obtained allotment of Pfizer vaccines for law enforcement personnel and will be providing PPSO with an unknown amount. Bonnie Aycock will be assisting in administrating these vaccines to the individuals. PPSO has agreed that any vaccine that is not used will go toward PPG employees that are 70 years and older or meet the current LDH tier requirements. The state does not want any vaccine to go to waste. They want everyone to find an arm to stick if you can locate someone in the current phase. If you can't locate. Also, beginning next week, Bonnie will be providing the 2nd dose of the Moderna vaccine to our first responders. Plaquemines Health Department is currently scheduled to receive an ultra-cold freezer in March, and Plaquemines Medical Center is scheduled to receive it in mid-February. Hurricane Zeta recovery. The deadline to register for individual assistance for Hurricane Zeta is March 15, 2021. You can register with FEMA by calling the helpline 1-800-621-FEMA. They're open from 7 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. The number of applicants submitted to FEMA for disaster assistance right now in Plaquemines Parish is a total of 549 applicants. To break that down in zip codes, Belchase has 169, Bootville has 5 applicants, Braithwaite has 110, Beerus Empire has 66, Point LaHash has 35, and Port Sulphur has 164, with a total of 549. So people are responding to these applications. DSNAP, Hurricane Zeta recovery, DSNAP approved for 6 parishes impacted by Hurricane Zeta. The application period runs from February 1st to February 7th and will follow an alphabetical schedule. On your assigned day, call the LA Help You call center at 1-888-524-3578 between 7:30 and 6:30 p.m. A caseworker will walk you through the application process on the phone, verifying your identity, residency, your household income, resources, and disaster-related expenses. The application opens February 1st, and with residents calling to apply according to the following schedule. Day 1, residents with the last name beginning between A and C. Day 2, D through G. Day 3, H through L. Day 4, M through R. Day 5, S through Z. And then after that, day 6, all residents, and day 7, 7 residents. And you can also find them on the website at www.dcfs.la.gov, DSNAP. Our Civic Drive Fishing Pier ribbon cutting is tomorrow. We look forward to seeing everyone Friday to have the ribbon cutting at the new Port Sulphur Civic Drive Fishing Pier. Again, thank you to our state partners and the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries. CPRA Coastal Conversations. The Louisiana Coastal Protection Program and Restoration Authority will be hosting a series of open house style meetings in your community to provide an opportunity for low income and minority community members and fishermen to share inputs and ideas of the mid-Bat area sediment diversions in an informal setting. These are open house hours. There will be no formal presentation. These meetings are intended to specifically as outreach to low-income and minority community members and fishermen. Additional opportunities for comments and inputs from the general public will begin soon. If you cannot attend in person, you can visit coastal.lagov.community to watch a video and complete the online questionnaire. Residents can pick up a paper copy and prepaid postage envelope at the Port Sulphur Library to mail to the questionnaire to CPRA. Or call the automated phone line at 225-342-9000. This will be available and accessible February 1st. The open house dates are Monday, February 1st, and all of these are at the same location, the Port Sulphur YMCA. So Monday, February 1st, 4 to 7. Thursday, February 4th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Tuesday, February 9th, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. And Wednesday, February 10th, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And all this will be on our website. Recreation. Parish Recreation just wrapped up the 2021 basketball registration. The season is set to start February 6th. Plaquemines Parish Recreation soccer registration will begin February 1st through the 26th, ages 5 through 14. Online registration will be available starting Monday, February 1st. That is my report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Any comments from the council?
Yes, thank you, Mr.
Mr.
President.
Barry?
You talked about the shots, and I just mentioned to you a little bit, I want to make it public. We don't want any of those to go to waste, so if you would consider our retirees that are in their 60s, they're not quite 70, but I would hate to see any of those shots go to waste. So if HR, I mean, I don't know how it would be handled, but I'm just asking for you to consider any of the Plaquemines Parish retirees. Thank you.
Okay, and we'll, we'll open up to what we can. It takes, it was instructed by Ms. Bonnie that there are a few left, and look, we're trying to get those into, we're trying to get categorized of our 70-year-old, our EMS, so, and we got a waiting list, but we're going down the line of our parish employees, so we will take that in consideration.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, Mr. President, I'd like for you to, for next meeting, get update on the Britton Sound project on the East Bank. And also the back levee on Run Long Highway 39, the culvert situation, where we are with that situation where we're located. And I just mentioned to Mr. Helmuth that it's a possibility that we can meet with CPRA to discuss the elevation, possible elevation of the levee on the East Bank. That's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the audience? State your name and address for the record.
Reverend Tyrone Edwards, 112 Thomas Lane. The trash along the road, it's been a while since stuff been picked up. And then there's another question of what being picked up, because I noticed in the Willow Spring Breakaway area, a lot of people putting aluminum sidings on the road. And people ask me, we see aluminum siding up there, and there's a lot of aluminum siding, from Phoenix to Bohemia. So what is being picked up? But it still got a lot of stuff still on the side of the road. It came one time after the hurricane and picked up, but they haven't been back since. So we're just trying to get some understanding about when they're coming back again and what can be picked up.
Mr. Reverend Edwards, I actually rode that road down today and saw some of the debris that's out, and I can promise you we'll get there as fast as we can. In fact, I rode with Mr. Helmers, and I had to make a U-turn. What I saw, about five gallon buckets of oil and two 55-gallon drums of oil.
Right.
So, don't know where that came from, but that's a hazard, and that needs to be taken care of. And we actually going to report that to the sheriff's office and try to eliminate that in the long run. But I did notice some of the trash, and we'll get on it as soon as we can.
What about this aluminum siding? Is that something you pick up? Because I noticed in some area that's out there, they got a lot of people, I know just in Phoenix, didn't even put it out because they didn't know whether it could be picked up. But I know that in some areas, it's on the side of the road. So that's something that the parish picks up.
I'd like to defer to my solid waste.
Yes, they are scheduled to come over here Saturday. We're shorthanded with chair pick operator. We have one retire in December, and they have worked over here a couple of times. We hauling trees in Breakaway behind the old Giordano property. We got a burn permit there. And they are picking up as much trash as possible. They may not pick up the trees at that time because the trash has to go all the way to the East Bank. But yes, the aluminum siding, we'll pick that up. Anything that's out there, pretty much, we will get it.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to finally thank the administration for finally coming to closing on our generator. I'm very pleased with that. I can see it's being almost done, so we won't have to worry about anybody getting trapped in elevators like myself. So I really appreciate that effort of getting that project done.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Thank you. Ms. Marquette?
Yes. Item 4A, update by charter directors.
I think everybody got that in their emails.
I have a question.
Ms. Newberry?
I have a question for Ms. Crystal. Mosquito control, when are we looking to start up with the mosquito control again? Because, now that we're charging that user fee on the water bill, people want to see that mosquito man come by every day.
Mosquito control normally starts up
early, midway February, March. And if we get a complaint, we address it as we get it.
Okay,
So if someone calls, we'll send a truck out.
okay, thank you.
Mr. LaFrance?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Ms. Marquette?
Bids and advertisements, there are none. Number 6, beer and liquor licenses.
Queue in if you need, President one. I have one, Vet Nung, Lucky Ryan's, Buras, Louisiana. That's all I have. Mr. LaFrance?
Yes, I have Myrtle Grove Bar at 17509 Highway 23.
That's it. I'll offer, ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance. Machines are open. Let the record show passes 9-0.
Building permits, construction permits. Are we taking 1 and 2 and
1 and 2.
Number 1, Phillips 66 Alliance Refinery LLC, application number 2020-958, dated December 16, 2020. Install approximately 3.1 miles of a new 12-inch diameter hydrogen pipeline and a valve meter site, Plaquemines Parish S-12 of T16S-R20E, ending at Alliance Refinery, Councilmember LaFrance. Number 2, Whitney Oil and Gas LLC, application number 2021-37, dated January 12, 2021. Installation of 2 4-inch flow lines, Garden Island Bay, Councilmember Bartholomew.
So offered.
Offered by Mr. LaFrance, second by Mr. Bartholomew. Any questions from the board? Administration, audience? Machines are open. Good. Can I have a revote? I was supposed to abstain. Can you just make the record show? Motion to reconsider?
Blink.
Second by Mr. Roussel. Machines open for the reconsideration. And now to vote on the ordinances.
It didn't show, but we'll let the record reflect that you're abstaining.
That was for the reconsideration. Now we
Oh,
vote
I'm
on
sorry.
the record shows 7 yes and 2 abstain.
Okay, items B through J. 6, letter E is being deferred. Buras RV Park conditional approval for a new owner existing RV Park, 35948 Highway 11, Buras, Louisiana. Councilmember Konovich. C, Shady Oaks Trailer Park, Frank Daigle, final approval for 4 additional spaces, Shady Oaks Lane, Belle Chase, Louisiana. Councilmember Blank. D, Shady Oaks Trailer Park, Frank Daigle, Trailer Park Renewal, Shady Oaks Lane, Belle Chase, Louisiana. Councilmember Blank. F, Riverside Trailer Park, Jim Boyd Trailer Park Renewal, Riverside Lane, Boothville, Louisiana. Councilmember Konovich. G, Jim's RV Park, Jim Boyd Trailer Park Renewal, Shadow Lane, Boothville, Louisiana. Councilmember Konovich. H, Belle Chase Mobile Home Park LLC, David Junker Trailer Park Renewal, River Oaks and Bird Drive, Belle Chase, Louisiana. Councilmember Roussel. I, Naomi Mobile Home Park LLC, David Junker Trailer Park Renewal, Naomi Drive, Belle Chase, Louisiana. Councilmember Blink. J, Providence Estates, Brandon Dotson, Trailer Park Renewal, 40551, A-L, Highway 23, Boothville, Louisiana. Councilmember Konovich.
All off, ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Blink. Any comments from the board? Administration, audience? Machines open. Let the record show it passes 9-0.
Introductions of ordinances and resolutions. We have several. These are for Councilmember Konovich. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of an undesignated portion of ground located in Section 35, T20S, R30E, Southeastern Land District of Louisiana, west of the Mississippi River, Boothville, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into lots JJ1, JJ2, JJ3, and JJ4, Section 35, T20S, R30E, Southeastern Land District of Louisiana, west of the Mississippi River, Boothville, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the re-subdivision plan and plat of survey by Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated November 12, 2020, revised January 21, 2021. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2021 operating revenue and expenditure budgets, financial administration department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2021 general fund operating expenditure budget, register of voters department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2021 general fund operating expenditure budget, council general department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance authorizing the parish president to do all things necessary and proper to sell tract E-1 located on El Dorado Street, Buras, Louisiana 70041 to blank for the appraised value of $25,000 and charge the buyer other reasonable expenses related thereto, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing the Plaquemines Parish government acting through its parish president Kirk Lapine and Venice Energy Services LLC to enter into a right of entry agreement relating to the parish land for the purpose of depositing dredged material and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. The following is for Councilmember Blink. An ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Empire Waterfront LLC located in a Duluth subdivision, Section 9, Township 20 South, Range 28 East, Southern Land District of Louisiana, west of the Mississippi River in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the map of re-subdivision of lots 11 and 12 into lots 11A, 11B, 12A, and 12B, property of Empire Waterfront LLC by Tilden H. Dufresne Jr., PLS of Dufresne Surveying and Engineering, Inc., dated October 17, 2020, revised January 5, 2021. The owner having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the parish of Plaquemines without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines. An ordinance to amend and as amended, readopt Section 9, Article 9, Section 13-120 entitled Mosquito Control Fees Established and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution authorizing the parish president to protect Plaquemines Parish government's interest and to pursue any and all damages and other penalties under the law owed to the parish as a result of the acts and/or omissions of various pharmaceutical manufacturers, companies, wholesale pharmaceutical distributors, and other parties deemed liable by the parish attorney, including joining any pending or future litigation related to opioid production and/or distribution. The following is for Councilmember LaFrance. A resolution to establish a one-year moratorium prohibiting the receipt of any permit application and/or the issuance of any permit for the construction of any borrow pit or any other pits or the extraction of dirt, soil, clay, sand, gravel, or earth within the boundaries of the parish of Plaquemines in order to allow the Plaquemines Parish government time to review, regulate, and restrict the construction of said pits or extractions, and further to establish guidelines, policies, and procedures related thereto, and furthermore to ensure the safety, health, and welfare of the people and property of this parish are protected, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution reinstating the Borrow Pit Advisory Committee created via Resolution Number 17-58 to appoint the membership of said committee and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. The The following is for Councilmember Arbro. An ordinance proposing amendments to the Charter for Local Self-Government of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, and providing for other matters in connection therewith. The following is for Councilmember Bartholomew. An ordinance to amend the 2021 manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, Ferries General Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. A resolution relative to the formulation and proposal of the 2022 operating budget and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And that is it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Ms. Marquette.
Ordinance and resolutions on second reading and final passage. 9A1. An ordinance to prohibit through traffic on West W Street, Belchase,
You
Louisiana.
want to defer? We'll skip that until Mr.
Oh, I
Roussel
didn't
comes
realize
back.
he wasn't here, but
He comes now.
An ordinance to prohibit through traffic on West W Street, Belchase, Louisiana, for motor vehicles that exceed a gross weight of 5,000 pounds, to establish a penalty for the violation thereof, to authorize the parish president to have the appropriate roadway signs installed, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Now I offer next for a second.
Mr. Roussel offered, Ms. Newberry second. Mr. Roussel?
Yes, what this does, this adds the street to the list. Randy, you had prepared a ordinance separately from this, and then I think we've had some discussion back and forth to add it to the list with a new category, commercial.
Correct. So, well, right, we had this ordinance, I think you need to offer with changes, what you drafted.
We have a substitute,
Well, substitute, yes.
right?
Right, and so this would add West W Street to the Code of Ordinances where you have a lot of streets listed as no through. The reason the original ordinance didn't include that was because I think all those streets were residential, and so there wasn't an exception for trucks delivering to commercial businesses. West W Street does have commercial businesses on it, so we've amended the language to say that a commercial truck delivering not just to a resident, but also a commercial business located on that street would be exempted.
Right, so I offered a substitute, and the substitute was distributed by email to everyone.
Sir?
She read it.
Read the substitute?
No, I did not read the substitute.
Oh, you would read it, please?
You want me to say what's being removed, you just rewrote a change? What it's going to?
How do you want us to read it? You want it read the whole thing?
No, just
So much?
just
the
what we're
change.
doing, the code that we're amending.
An ordinance to amend and as amended, readopt Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 15, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Section 15-9, gross vehicle weight limitations on certain parish streets and roads. Whereas West W Street and Belchase is a parish roadway, and whereas cut-through traffic often moves at a much higher speeds than normal local neighborhood vehicles, and whereas the higher speed cut-through traffic of heavy vehicles creates greater stress on West W Street, which was not designed for this type of traffic and therefore creates conditions for greater deterioration.
What has changed?
Oh, what has changed? Okay.
I offered a substitute, next for a second.
Mr. Roussel offers and Dr. Gouy seconds. Any questions from the board? Audience? Administration? Machines open. That passes 9-0.
9B, a resolution to adopt the Plaquemines Parish Title VI Plan as required by the Federal Transportation Administration.
Mr. LaFrance, do you offer? Mr. LaFrance offers. Is there a second?
There,
Second by Dr. Gouy.
There are
There-
changes.
Mr. LaFrance?
yes, sir, there are changes.
Please read the changes.
The changes that were made were basically to the, change it to the new ferry schedule. I got it. On page 36, under service availability standard, it'll reflect Belchase Scarsdale route, 6 a.m. to 5:30 p.m. daily, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And East Point Omahash, West Point Omahash, at 8 a.m. until 7:30 p.m., 7 days a week, 365 days. And then on page 37, under Vehicle Headway Policy, North Ferry, Belle Chase Landing, on the hour and the half hour commencing at 6 a.m. and concluding at 5:30 p.m., Scarsdale Landing on the quarter hour and the 3/4 hour. South Ferry, West Point Lahash Landing on the half hour commencing at 8 a.m. and concluding at 7:30 p.m. East Point Lahash Landing on the hour. Those are the changes, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Administration? Audience?
I do.
Ms. Newberry?
We have to come up with extra money to put these hours, add these hours?
No, this is not costing us any money. This is just to comply with the Federal Transportation Administration, so we're eligible for the grant money that we receive.
Okay, thank you, Todd.
Reverend Edwards?
And my question, Mr. LaFrance, is these hours for the ferry, you know, especially looking at Belle Chase, 8 to 7:30, we have a lot of teachers who have to be at school early, and this really not helping them at all. So I was wondering how you had 6 o'clock for Fernley Hatch, unless I heard it wrong, and then 8 o'clock for, what you call them, most of the teachers that come to Finney teach, they try to get that Belle Chase ferry early, and a lot of other people. So I just wonder, you know, what went into the hours at 6 at Fernley Hatch and 8 so late for Belle Chase, because having Belle Chase early really would help a lot of the teachers and a lot of people who work in the area where I live at to get to work. So I just wonder, are we stuck to that time? Could it be
Absolutely. We implemented the schedule to cover as many hours in a day as we possibly could with the budget that we were given to operate the ferries on. We are currently starting the Belle Chase ferry at 6 a.m. and the Point Lahash ferry at 8 a.m. That is the schedule that we will follow.
Any other questions from the audience?
I do. I have a comment.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes. Now, this leads us not to change those schedules, because the fact is they got legislation on the table for changes.
No, at any time after this is adopted, the council can change the schedule. We would have to do, to the extent there's a substantial change, we'll have to have public hearings on that. And then we would also notify the Title VI officers at the Federal Highway Administration of the change. So this does not lock us in, but this has to be adopted today. Otherwise, we jeopardize the federal grant.
Okay, you said it has to go before the public.
What I'm
With
saying.
the changes.
Say that again?
You said that the changes we make have to go before the public, you have to have a hearing.
Right, so if you.
So why, go ahead, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right. So if you all decide to change the schedule next month, we would need to have public hearings on that in order to maintain our status as a grantee. So that's what I'm saying. But this schedule put in this Title VI plan does not prohibit you from changing the schedule in the future. You just simply have to notify them of the changes.
But we still have to have a hearing with the public. That's the key that I'm getting to. And I want to know why we didn't do that in the past. We never did that before, because of the grant that we haven't applied for? Or did we receive that money before?
I'm not.
I'm asking. Somebody ought to be able to tell us yes, if we received the money or not.
Well, I don't know. I mean, we have council meetings, Ms. Hilda would have taken care of that. As my knowledge is that we're in compliance.
Anybody know that's in Auburn can tell us whether or not we had received the grant money last year, year before, or whenever?
We have been receiving.
Okay, now, the question is, we didn't never have a town hearing concerning that. Never. We just did it. Now, we have to follow protocol. So I don't have a problem following protocol, but I think we need to be consistent with whatever the policy is, and that we have to follow. I have no problems with that. I'm just trying to find the protocol. Procedurally, we was in violation then. If that's what we're saying. That's what you're saying. So that means from now on forward, whenever we change, we have to have public hearing. Am I correct on that?
We'll need to verify that with the grant administrator to make sure.
Because we do have changes on the agenda today, recommended changes on the agenda today. So before I can move on that, I have to make sure what all the procedures are. You know what I'm saying? I want to know the procedures are, so what is our objectives that we would have to do that? And we also introduced appropriations money to add to the budget, the ferry department budget, to make this thing whole. Not a whole big old scale of it, but just to add what we had talked about. The five crews instead of 4. That would give us the opportunity to run 12-hour shift during the week, 7 days a week. And I have it right there. I did it. It worked out fine. But it's only 6 hours a shift. We have split shift. And you have different people doing different shifts during the day. And everybody have 2 days off the week.
But
All
I'm
been
happy
figured
to
out
sit
with that.
down and look at that with you, sir.
Yeah, I'm just saying, all that has been worked out. But I don't want to present something if it's in vain, it cannot be implemented.
But
You know, that's all I'm saying.
That's not anything to do with the Title VI that's on the table right now.
So Title VI means that we can come back with a recommendation to change the schedule.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
The Title VI didn't require that there would be a public hearing to talk about the scheduling, because who made the decision? Was there a public hearing to come up with the schedule that you came with Belchade being 6 to 5:30 and what you call them being 8 to 7:30? Was there some public hearing for that to take place? Or that was something arbitrarily done by the administration?
There are no public hearings required for the Title VI compliance. The Title VI is actually a plan that is written by the grant administrator and submitted to the Federal Transportation Administration. The Federal Transportation Administration has been getting this from Plaquemines Parish government for the past decade. They just recently require a resolution or an ordinance, a resolution from the parish council to go along with the plan. That's why it's here before the council today.
And so can the council today change the hours that you have here? That's my question. Because this having people to go down to Perla Hash at 7:30 because Belchade stop at 5:30. You know, and I heard Mr. Bartholomew say he have a proposal with help with the crew. So that cannot be did right now? That's my only question, if the grant haven't went in yet, you know. So if you're bringing it before the parish government, you know, who probably got to sign off, approve this grant, why can't we change these hours and then add the stuff that Mr. Bartholomew's, what he want to suggest right now, to really make it convenient to the public? And I think Title VI is really trying to help folks who really need some help. Because this schedule here that you have is really not helping people who really need it.
Title VI is not based on what the ferry schedule is. It's based on compliance with Title VI for the Federal Transportation Administration.
I'm hearing that, but
The administration is happy to sit down with the council at any time to talk about ferry schedules and how we can work something else out. The ferry schedules are the way they are now because we only have a certain amount of money budgeted, and that's the amount of money that we can run the ferries for. And administration would be happy to sit with the council at any time to work on the schedule.
okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Blink.
Mr. Blank?
I wanted to ask Mr. Edwards,
Don't need to.
given the budget constraints, would you rather see one ferry operated for 18 hours a day or the continued situation where we're spread thin, trying to run two ferries or reduced hours that don't make any?
No, I just think you got people living
Mr. Edward, we're voting on the Title VI.
Okay.
He'd have to ask you that after
Oh, okay.
we on. State your name and address for the record.
Drexel Northeast 17977 Sergeant Paul Narcisse, Highway 15. President of Fishermen Concerned Citizen Organization. While we're on the subject of ferry schedules, whoever came up with this schedule, I mean, you're not thinking about the elderly, emergency, medical emergencies. That's 8 o'clock is just not working for people that's got to go to work. I mean, I've been by the coal mine for 32 years. I never went to work for 8 o'clock. It was 6 o'clock or before. So who goes to work at 8 o'clock? This is not benefiting anyone except the people that work here. So I think that the schedule needs to be changed. It's just not working. It's not safe. That ferry is a vital organ to this parish, to the community. So I think we got to come up with something better. And as far as money goes, how many people do you have employed for the parish that retired off of one job and come work for the parish, making X amount of dollars when you're looking for money? I mean, these are the people that you're not going to hurt them by telling them, hey, we can't use it anymore. Instead of laying off the little guy who got kids in school and mortgages, but you got people employed that's elderly, making $80,000, $90,000, $100,000. When you're looking for money, I think you need to start looking at these people who have their houses paid for, that and put their kids through school, through college. You're hurting a small person who want to send, they hope that they can send their child to college or pay off their home. And they're not making that much money. And those are the people that you're hurting.
We'll
Thank
see about having a community meeting and get y'all input on it.
How can we have a community meeting with all of the residents of this parish? I think.
Each community could have their own, but
And how do you tally the numbers? How can we trust?
we got to get your input and give it to the administration, and they'll have to make a decision.
Thank you.
State your name and address for the,
Wyona Kirkland Belchase. Title VI, can you explain tell the people what Title VI stands for? Tell me about Title VI.
Title VI, whereas Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 prohibit discrimination against any person on the basis of race, color, national origin, and the provision of prohibit any services from federal assistance program and activities. Ms. Barber, can you read the rest, or do you have it? Or should I read it?
Let's see.
I'm sure she knows what Title VI is. I'm sure.
I'm looking to see where it says all that. Let's see, it's against, prohibits discrimination against any person on the basis of race, color, or national origin in the provision of benefits from federally assisted programs.
Okay, thank you. I know what Title VI is. We got viewers who don't know. We got people sitting in the audience who probably don't know. Chairman, what did you say just now about having a meeting?
Mr. Bartholomew and the other councilmen can have schedule meetings in their districts and get input, and we could give it to the administration and come up with a better schedule.
Input about what, the schedule?
Yes, ma'am.
I think this been going back and forth. It's like a ball.
Well,
It's
see,
been being batted back and forth. I think the schedule is what it should be and what is the needs of the people, and I think every last one of you know what it is.
yes, ma'am, but
So I really don't think there needs to be a meeting. The ferry, this gentleman talked about how they've been playing with this ferry since he's been a little child, like a toy. You're not the only administration who has played this game with the ferry situation when it comes to money. But I'm glad that the people are viewing and are aware of what Title I, Title VI is. Now, the community can get together and take some different actions and do some other violations in a different way and have an investigation of our own through some other entities. But this needs to get right, and it needs to be fair. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Conyers,
Yes, sir, Mr.
to let you
Patrolman.
know that we did have a town meeting about the schedule. And the one that I had proposed came out of that meeting. It's the one I had introduced, that's on the agenda today. Now, the problem is funding of that time frame, and that is the issue. Since that, I went and looked and found something that we can do for roughly 200,000 instead of 500 or $1 million, which we don't have. And that schedule is what I'll be introducing today to accommodate that, along with the funding, where money can come from. So it's not like we hadn't been working on it. We have. You know, and Mr. LaFrance was there. He was at that meeting. People was there. A lot of people was there. So it's not like we didn't make an effort to try to accommodate the needs of the people. That's where it had to come from. Of them telling me as a council person what are their needs, what need to be done. And that's what we did. So, but along with the attorney said that we can come back with a proposal and it'd be no problem to implement that. And if the project, the appropriation passed this council, we can move forward. And if not, doesn't pass the council, that's another issue. So, but all that had been worked out. All that had, but I'm just puzzled by the fact that since we've been doing it the first time, then when we change something with Title I, we have to have a hearing. That puzzles me, because in the past, we never did do that. But I understand the change, we have the guidelines, or we have to follow guidelines. So those things, I think, we need to know as a governmental entity or agency, to know those criterias, so we can address what we need to address and follow protocol. Not at the table, but beforehand. Thank you, sir.
So, Mr. Bartholomew, you want to take your item first?
No, I introduced mine to have to lay over. It's being
Oh, okay.
introduced today. The money appropriation.
You want to defer this item?
You can't, he said you cannot.
He has to vote on it. He said we could change the times anytime we wanted.
Okay.
Can you defer it?
No, we cannot defer this
He
item.
cannot.
Yes, sir.
My name is Joseph Williams. Live at 125 Bazille Drive in Braithwaite, Louisiana. I live about 2 minutes from the ferry. A few days ago, I pulled up to the Belchase Ferry at about 20 minutes to 5. They loaded the ferry, and I was the last person that could not get on the ferry. I was the first person in line that they told to go to Point LaHash or either go to Chalmette. It's ridiculous. I live about 2 minutes from the ferry. I had to drive all the way around to get to my home. One of the things I need to know is, it's a matter of dollars and cents. How much does it cost to operate the ferries? That's one thing the people don't know. I know you guys know, but we don't know. So I would like to see a breakdown on what it costs to operate the ferries. I remember when I was a kid, about 14 years old, Leander Perez said the ferries would always be free and they would always run. And this is not happening with this administration, or with the council, or with the presidential administration. So I would like to know, how much does it cost to operate the ferries?
Mr. Blank?
Sure. Bo, do you want to share some of that math that you texted me earlier? Okay, got it. Ferry system is $3.5 million a year to operate.
What is that?
I think- What's that?
Budget for 2020 was 3.6 million for the ferry department. The budget we started with for 2021 was 1.5 million. The administration searched for money in ways that we could increase that so we could at least run 2 ferries 12 hours a day instead of having 1 ferry 12 hours a day. We were successful in identifying some funding. We brought it to the council. The council voted to provide the funding, which is why we were able to provide 2 ferries 12 hours a day, which is, got the budget at about 2.5 million right now. So we're $1 million less than we were in 2020.
So given the amount of vehicles that travel over the ferries, and how much the ferry system costs to operate, it works out somewhere between, it costs the parish between $9 and $14 per car to send the boats across throughout the year.
Mr. Roussel?
And Mr. Epley, how much of that money that we are operating on now is non-recurring revenue?
Most of it. We budgeted $500,000 in toll revenue in the budget. That was provided that the tolls would increase, since there was legislation on the table. Council hasn't taken up that increase in tolls, so we will likely be less than $300,000 in toll revenue this year.
And general fund money picks up the rest, or is there any BP money in that?
General fund money.
All general fund? No supplemental, the extra money that y'all identified, where did it come from?
CARES Act reimbursement.
And that was a reimbursement for one-time funds?
Correct.
And how much was that?
600,000.
So we were operating on actually 600,000 of one-time money.
Yes, sir.
So I think that, we're going to come to a reckoning here eventually, and I wasn't going to jump into this conversation, but if something doesn't happen and an adaptable schedule is not adopted to where we have funds to continue it, we're going to be right here in November doing the same thing we're doing right now. And it's getting old. So back to this resolution, this ordinance that's on the table. I'm sorry I raised the issue last meeting about adopting it, because that's where we're at now. But it's my understanding that if we want to change it after we adopt this today, the process is public hearing, input from the public, and then an adoption of another document.
Not for the Title VI plan.
That's not accurate?
The only public hearing issue we have is to comply with the grant funding that we get from FTA.
Talking about the schedule part of this application, of this.
If there are major changes to the schedule or to the fees, there has to be a public hearing.
And what would be enlightened as major changes?
If we were cutting out a boat completely, if we were changing the schedule dramatically, I don't know exactly what the parameters are. I would have to get with the grant administrator to find out. We had public hearings scheduled because we thought that the toll would be changing and we would have to do it all at one time. And we haven't changed the tolls. That would be one of the triggers for the public meetings.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I'm just going to respond to Mr. Blink's question. I was sitting on the ferry today at 2:30 to catch a 2:30 boat, and we're just doing some rough math based on the items that were on the agenda today. And the variation goes from about $250 to $450 per trip. On a 2:30 boat, they had 5 cars that got off the ferry on the West Bank. So, I'm just using rough numbers. We're probably negative $300 and something per trip. Just to kind of reiterate what Mr. Blink said. I would like to hear the answer, if we get a chance later on, that you asked Mr. Edwards, because that's a good question. But maybe later on, Mr. Bartholomew's legislation, you can bring it back up. But I'll end it with this. I wish someday, at least in the next year and 11 months of my final term, is that we can finally come to a resolution on a set ferry schedule. I mean, we've fluctuated this thing for the last 6 years since I've been here, and I'm sure since Mr. Russo was the parish president, it's been fluctuating. So at some point, I'd like to see that finalized. That's all I have.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes. I remember when I began with council, we had a mechanism in place, a funding mechanism in place to support the ferries. And it was called the road royalty funds. It came from the state offshore leases. And that money used to maintain the connection of 39 and Braithwaite and the Point LaHatch ferry in Point LaHatch. And that money was always appropriated for that. And through the infinite wisdom of the legislators, they changed that and gave the parish the opportunity to put it wherever they saw fit. And it went into the general fund operation. So when you took that away, that took away the money that was appropriated over the years for that department to run the ferries. So who created the deficit? The government created the deficit when they removed the funding. Now, the funding mechanism that what a deficit was never addressed. It was always covered with the road royalty fund. So the government did not address the deficit at a time where it was coming from. Because if the money was coming for the road royalty fund to maintain the parish, it should have stayed in place. And you still wouldn't have a problem today with that road royalty fund. So I'm introducing legislation today to get the president to include that in his budget next year, off the top, because every year this money comes in. So it would be every year that money could get in and appropriate the operation of the ferry. The state would give you that, give us that. So now, where is the deficit came from? Where the deficit came from? That's what we need to look at, find out exactly in our operation, day-to-day operation, governmental entities that cause us to take the money from the road royalty fund to cover the budget. That's all, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Can I make a clarifying statement? Mr. Black just called my name, and Mr. Blank.
Yes, yes, sir.
You don't need to know my position. Mr. Bartholomew is qualified to answer any question you have about what our community would be in agreed of, because you asked me how I feel, but Mr. Bartholomew can answer your question on that. You don't need to ask me. You're sitting right next to him, Mr. Black, you could ask him, and Mr. Blank, you could walk next to him and ask him. He know what we need.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Okay, from what I understand, that grant money or the Title VI money, if we change the schedule, I don't know, it don't make any sense to me. If you, I would say that if you do something that's detrimental to the people, you know, where you're cutting the schedule back, then we have to have public hearings. But if you want to make the schedule longer, like Mr. Bartholomew's talking about, I don't think that you should have public hearings. You know, it would comply with the Title VI, as long as you're doing an improvement, not you know. That's all, you know. I'm no lawyer, but that's the way I look at it.
Thank you. Any other questions? Machine's open.
Thank God.
Passes 9-0. Is there anybody with the DA department here today?
What department?
DA's,
Well, they probably left.
we'll defer the next item.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can you go to 10E, please?
Can we go to 10E, Ms. Marquette?
Nico.
10E, District 7 update, Register of Voters update by Ms. Sharon Brannon.
Nico, can you call Miss Sharon Brandon out the hall for? Thank you.
leaving, they're gonna stand up.
Guys, I'm gonna tell you, I'm leaving.
Hmm?
I'm leaving in a little while.
We ain't catching that ferry. You can't leave.
What?
I can't leave, you can't leave.
You're wasting too much time.
Okay, thank you.
Hello?
Handout.
Can you state your name and address for the record? You ain't going nowhere.
Hi, I'm Sharon Brannon, 11781 Highway 23, Belchase, and I'm the new Registrar of Voters. And I would like to thank the council for your vote of confidence in the appointment. We've really been working hard, and I appreciate this opportunity to give you an update on what our office has been doing. But first thing I'd like to make is a little public service announcement to everyone, please. If anyone needs anything from the registrar's office, until we're able to establish a satellite office, we'll make home visits, we'll make ourselves available in any way, shape, or form to help anyone that needs to update their registration or become a voter. So on this handout, I've kind of outlined the numbers because my goal was to clean up my goal was to clean up the rolls by May. And the progress that we've made so far has been, I think, something to be excited about. So you can see the first column, the first chart is the number of people that were removed from the rolls and then the reasons, if they were deceased or moved, or, any number of reasons. If you're a convicted felon, you get removed. If there's a judgment or voluntarily want to remove yourself. So you can see from January 1 to November, there were 222 people removed from the rolls who were deceased. From December until today, we've removed 85. We're going through daily, looking at people who have been very inactive voters. We're researching the obituaries. We're calling family members. We're making every possible effort. If there are voters that have been inactive on the rolls for any number of years, we found people that were deceased as long ago as '08 that were still active voters. Now, I can say they did not vote during that time, but we were able to remove them. And everyone that we've removed, we have documentation. Why? We either have copies of the, like a driver's license, the obituaries, whatever reason that we've made an adjustment to the voter record is documented in the file and copies are scanned. I think, Mr. Black, you should be getting a little card of an address verification card because we had your old address.
Got it. Thank you.
Good. Send it back.
Turn around on that.
All right. So, and just like I pointed out with Mr. Black, we're sending out mail verification. So the address that we have for a voter, we're sending a little card out for you to say, respond to us and let us know, is that correct or not? And from January to November of last year, 0 people were removed for that reason. And since I've been in office, we've removed 503 people from the rolls and verified by mail that they don't live here or, well, pretty much that they've moved away on that one. Transfers.
So that's that part. Any questions about that? Okay,
How do you change your address? How do you, when someone moves, how do they go online? Do they call you?
either one. So they can do either, or just, we get notices from the Department of Motor Vehicles. So if they go in and update their driver's license, we get lists that are updated every month. And then we compare with that. And then just general going in and cleaning up the data, because basically all we have is data. That's what the registrar's office is a collection of good data. And it's got to be good data, right? So that's what we've been doing, is cleaning up. And that very bottom chart, it shows you, the first column is the address confirmations and how many were done before and how many now, and then the total for that year. And we've updated, just in the short time I've been there, we've updated over 2,038 records. And we're working on it all day, every day. So even the people in our building said they've never seen so much work go on in that office. So I'm really proud of my staff and what we've been doing. So, any questions? Yes.
I have one, and thanks for the hard work. I think we've all been wanting to see this done for quite some time, so
Good.
appreciate it. Do you guys have the capability, or would you even do it, to cross-check with homestead exemptions to see if somebody?
Oh, we do. That's something that's always open on our desktop, is the assessor's site.
Okay.
So that's one of the first things we do, is we'll check for homestead exemption, driver's license, the obituaries. Those are all tools that we use on a regular basis.
All right, good deal, thanks.
Anybody else?
Any other questions?
So, and we are looking for office space, just to not open any big expensive office, just to have a place to work maybe one day a week in the North End, one day a week on the East Bank, so that we can make ourselves available to the voters. I know a couple of weeks ago, someone went in to one of the offices in Belchase and asked how they changed their address, and they were told they had to physically go to Port Sulphur, and they lived in Braithwaite. And please, let your people know, everyone, that that is not the case. If we need to go to them, we will do that, whatever it takes. But you can pretty much do everything online, and we'll walk them through that.
Mr. Roussel?
Who's next?
Yeah, sure. Ms. Brandon, I have a small satellite office in Belchase that I just don't use as much anymore. If it's okay with the administration, I'd be happy to have it.
Thank you. Awesome. I'll get with you tomorrow. Thank you.
Yes, Ms. Brand, I want to thank you for making this effort to clean up the rolls, and I think you're doing a fine job. And you mentioned the homestead exemption. I'm very proud to be the author of that legislation when I was in the legislature.
Awesome.
It stood the test of time in many court cases, and it's a good, effective way of making sure that people are not jumping around and voting in different locations.
It really is. It helps a lot. And I know many of the registrar offices are using that. So, yeah, I think that's wonderful. And if any of you would like a list of your district, I'd be happy to print that out for you, go over it with you, see if you see any names that we haven't gotten to yet. I've come across people that I knew. I was like, oh, she's been dead for a while. And so I'll copy the obituary and put that in the file. So I would invite you to do that, and any way that we can work with you. And we hope to have this pristine by the time you're ready to redistrict, because that's going to be really important information when you move forward with the redistricting.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes. That homestead exemption only applies to the homeowner, right?
Correct. So, right, it's not the be-all, end-all, right? It's just
don't know.
one of the tools
Right. Thank
that we can use, right?
Thank you. Any questions from the board, administration, audience?
Mr.
Can you come up to the mic?
Well, yeah, they got room here, they got room up there, they got room here, yeah, they got room anywhere.
Can you come to the mic?
I was asking Mr. Vitale when he was in the room, because at one time, the registered voter office used to always be in the courthouse, and it never came back. So I thought when it was rebuilding the courthouse, that the registered voter would like to come back, because they used to be housed here. So
We have one office space, and that was dedicated to the council, the Justice of the Peace. One in Phoenix and one from Paula Ash. Now, there is another office in there, but Recreation have this stuff, and there's possibility that can be moved.
Yeah.
Put somewhere else. That's the only, other than that, there's any, but there are space in this courthouse.
Oh, good.
I know that for a fact, because people haven't been showing up around there, so we got number space.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Thank you, I appreciate that, because we are here for our constituents and our residents. So one other thing is we are going to have a Facebook page and a website. I hope it's half as good as our clerk's. She does a great job with hers, and she's kind of set the bar for that. So, be on the lookout for those things. And also, we're going to do more with voter education, not just during voter registration week, but make that part of just our ongoing, just I'm sorry.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Ms. Marquette, 9D.
9D, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan, Buras Boat Harbor Oil Disposal Site Project, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer, ask for a second. Second by Mr. Blink. Mr. Helmers. Anybody has any questions for Mr. Helmers?
As you know, over the years, we've had a tremendous issue with oil disposal. Am I on? Yeah. We had a tremendous issue with that. Just this past year, we spent close to $60,000 cleaning up a spill down in the Venice Boat Harbor. We are constantly in violation because folks just leave stuff laying on the side of the road. And so by putting these units in, we'll be in compliance with EPA and DEQ. That's the importance of these. And it'll be able to take gas, old diesel, and oil. So we'll have all three of those. And this will be the first one. And then we plan to put them at all the other harbors.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? What do you do with the collections? There's a company that comes.
We have a company that comes and picks them up.
Yes, you pay for it. Huh? Yeah. Any questions from the audience? Machines are open.
Yeah.
It passes 9-0.
Get on that.
Ms.
E.
Marquette? E.
9E, an ordinance to amend the 2021 manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, public health fund, ambulances department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer, ask for a second. Second by Mr. Roussel. Administration.
Since the EMS program has moved from fire and it's back under public health, we don't have anyone to run the department. This would move a little bit of money added to the old EMS supervisor position to create an EMS manager position. The EMS manager would be paramedic certified, would also be certified to train paramedics, and would also be able to work on the trucks if needed. So this is someone who would be able to schedule the paramedics, order the supplies, oversee the maintenance of the vehicles, and also to train all of the employees that we currently have.
Any questions from the board? Administration? Audience? Machines open. It passes 9-0.
9F, an ordinance to amend the 2021 manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, general fund, community action agency department, BG-CARES Division and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
This one's on right now. Have to ask him. I'll offer, ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Newberry. Administration, you have, how much was the grant?
I'll refer to Ms. Taylor, please.
The total grant was, $42,630. And what we're proposing here, these would be temporary workers. There will be no benefits involved. We're proposing, if you read the legislation, it create and fund 2 grant temporary workers. Those 2 would work through the end of the year at the cost of $10,980. Then we have the second set to create and fund 4 grant temporary workers. And that would be a total of $5,167, and that would be a 4-month period that we have there. When Ms. Hughes originally applied for this grant, her plans were to use summer workers. If you remember last year, we advertised for youth summer workers, and we didn't get any applicants. And now that we're running short in the harbors and some other areas within the government in recreation with grass cutting and things, we figured we could advertise for temporary workers to work in those areas within the government, and also try to hire a couple of youth workers.
Thank you. Any questions from the council? Mr. Roussel?
Yeah, this is coming out the general fund, unreserved, undesignated fund balance, but it's an obligation that we have because we already accepted the grants and we didn't use it.
Right.
And so these workers will be temporary until the funds are expended?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Audience? Machine's open.
Vote yes.
And let the record show 9-0.
Nine G, a resolution authorizing and directing the parish president, Kirk Lepine, to execute a contract for services with Strategic Demographic LLC for reapportionment, redistricting services, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer, ask for a second. Second by Mr. Blink. Any questions from the council? Administration?
I want to point out that there's no right to audit clause in here.
What?
I'd also like to point out that I would prefer that venue be established as a 25th JDC. And I'd also like to point out that the contract appears to be severely front-loaded. 50% payable first 30 days only when item number 1 is done. We don't typically front-load contracts like that, or at least the payment of that. So if 50% of the work is item number 1, well, then obviously that's a different story, but there's 14 items listed, and we don't typically front-load our contracts like that. So those were just some things that I've saw, but
Can we defer that so you can review it? Because you haven't reviewed it yet?
what's that?
You haven't reviewed it?
No, I wasn't part of this process. I mean, Mr. Kognovich introduced
Can we
this.
defer it? until-
Yes, we could defer it. Can, Mr. Garrett? We'll defer this one. Let's mark at 9H.
An ordinance to amend the 2020 general fund operating revenue budget and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer, ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Roussel. Mr. Burris?
This is the item we discussed in executive session. We're working on a settlement. We expected to settle, we thought we perhaps would have the settlement last year, but due to COVID, it's been delayed. We expect to receive the funds this year in 2021. And so basically, this is moving the revenues from 2020 to 2021.
Any questions from the board, administration, audience? Machine's open. Does the record show passes 8-0 with one absent?
I, an ordinance to amend the 2021 general fund operating revenue budget and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
I'll offer, ask for second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Bartholomew. This is the same thing.
Same thing, yes, sir.
Any questions from the board? Audience? Machines open. It passes 9-0.
Nine J is deferred. 9K, a resolution authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to negotiate, execute, perfect, and enforce any and all documents required to apply for a community water enrichment grant of $64,500 to replace the existing above-ground 8-inch PVC support is failing water line crossing in Point Lahash with 8-inch PVC line board under the canal.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Offer as read.
Mr. Bartholomew offers as second.
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance. Mr. Bartholomew? Mr. Roussel?
Yes, as you know, this was a grant that was awarded for the Peters Road project, and we're donating this money to the East Bank from the West Bank in Belchase in District 5.
I'm sure Mr. Bartholomew thanks you, Mr.
I appreciate that one-time money, Mr. Russo.
Ms. Newberry?
Is this a yearly grant?
We apply for it annually, yes, ma'am. I don't think there's any guarantee that we'll get it awarded annually, but it's part of the Community Water Enrichment Fund.
And y'all already have a prospect for next year?
Do we have a prospect for
Yeah,
next
y'all have an
year?
area y'all looking at for
No,
next
no,
year
ma'am.
already for this grant?
We do not have a prospect for next year.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Administration? Audience? Machines are open. It passes 9-0.
Thanks to Mr. Russo, finally.
9L, an ordinance to amend the 2021 general fund operating expenditure budget, Judges 25th JDC, Division B, and Juvenile Division Department, and the Recreation Day Event Summer Recreation Program Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Offer.
Mr. Bartholomew offers a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. LaFrance. Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, sir. This is just a $5,000 grant to implement the Hope Shooting Program that the judge usually offers, which we are on a minimum amount of our participation with kids in recreation, and that will keep the program going on. He has all the labor, he has the vehicle. All he needs is the gas and insurance to keep it going. So I would appreciate if all the councilmen would support that, to support the children in the parish.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, as you know, that this comes out of the grant that we normally give to the firemen to run the summer youth program. It's required a CEA, and that's been the holdup for the last year. So are we going to have a CEA with the judge, and we're also going to have a separate bank account as the audit recommended for the fire department?
We haven't received the money, nor did we take it from the department, from the parish at all. It's still sitting in the budget. So the point is that we can take it and give it to them if we so see fit as a council. Not with no strings attached, but if you want to get a CEA, then you deal with that one.
Well, the reason that the fire department didn't receive its CEA, its money last year was because it had no CEA. So I'm asking the administration, are we going to require a CEA for this $5,000 grant and a separate account as the auditor recommended in the audit of the fire department, which is the same program, just moving it to a different department. So are you going to have a CEA?
Grant money from summer recreation program to the judge.
For recreation.
We would need a CA for the.
No, you need to get the book. This one.
The question is, do we need a CEA with the judge's office for this? Is that the question?
Yes.
I'm not really sure because I don't know exactly what services they're providing and how they're authorized. I would need to know a little more, I would need to know a little bit more about what's being offered. And if it's, if it's pursuant to his duties or authorized by statute, we fund judge's office for various things and stuff. So I would have to look at it a little closer to see.
Right, well, my question is that, the fire department took on this, and we didn't give the money last year because they didn't have a CEA. Now, the judge, I don't know that he's in the basketball business, but if he is, then we should, if he's getting into it, because he's been doing it for years, I'm not sure if it's one of his probationary programs, or it's not my understanding that he does that. My question is that before you issue the check, are you going to hold them to the same obligation that the fire department had for a CEA and a separate checking account, just as the auditor recommended in the audit of the fire department? We're trying to be consistent here, in the auditing department. And the internal auditor has made recommendations for the fire department. Now, he wants to move the money to a different department. I think we should follow the same procedure recommended by the internal auditor. That's my point.
And what I'm saying is I don't disagree with you at all. I just don't,
Okay.
This wasn't brought to me, so I don't know what services are being provided or what the pretext is. So if what you're saying is that the judge is going to do some program that isn't really pursuant to their duties and it's some kind of grant for him to do this, then yes, I would agree with you. I would think that we would need a CEA and the judge would have to, certify that he's using it for this purpose. I think it also, well, let me just leave it at that.
Now, I don't know what he's going to provide. That's the point.
Well, Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Bartholomew?
What it is, this program that he's been doing over the years, and because of the constraints in the budget, that part was eliminated because of the funding for this year. And so since we have the money sitting in the budget and not being spent, and we didn't do any recreation because of the coronavirus, because of the area, the fire department said it covers so many students. So they didn't mind for the judge to do it, a recreation program to support what they've been trying to do all year. But it's a small amount of kids that they participate with.
Just based on what I know here, I believe, yes, I would require a CEA and I would require that there be an accounting of funds and et cetera through an audit clause.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, just a procedural issue. I make a recommendation. I know the port does it currently, and we've done it for multiple years, and we used to do it on the council, but this is like the third or fourth time I've heard the administration not be familiar with one of the ordinances or resolutions that are on the agenda. I would like to maybe if it's not happening, the chairman or a delegate, schedule time the week of the council meeting. I know the port does it currently. You guys do it on a Monday. It was beneficial, and maybe we can alleviate some of these. Just a recommendation from just past experience, Mark, not.
Yes, we could set something up.
Can we make an amendment that the money be, once they do the CEA or the recommendation of the attorney, the council attorney, that the money be moved if he agrees to it after everything was done?
Well, I think nothing's preventing you from going ahead and moving the money.
Oh, okay.
What I'm committing to the council is that I believe that a CEA would be signed between us, and if not, I would come back to you and tell you why I didn't believe that.
You're not gonna discuss
I'm operating under the assumption that I will not, what I'm committing to the council is I will not authorize the release of the funds either unless a CEA is signed, or if not, I would come back to you for some reason and notify you of why that wasn't the case.
Thank you. Any other questions? Audience? Machines are open. Passes 8 with 1 not voting.
M, an ordinance creating an additional ferry schedule for the Belle Chase and Point Elahesh ferries and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Bartholomew offers his second.
Offer with discussion.
Offer for discussion only. I'll second. Mr. Bartholomew?
Based on the legislation that we just passed a few minutes ago, we will be coming back to this council at the next council meeting with a proposed schedule and also a proposed funding mechanism to implement that proposed schedule. And at that point in time, whatever we have to do to put it into place, if everything passes, the administration could do it. And anything that need to be other than that, then we have to follow the guidelines to make it happen. So, and the brief thing in the eventually is that we want to, the thing was to start at 6:30 in the Belchase on the west bank, and ends at 8 o'clock on the east bank in Belchase, on this Belchase ferry. Parlahatch would begin on the east bank at 6 and end on the west bank at 7:30. That was the intent to do that. And that will become what we call a split shift. Since we have 4 ships, 4 crews, we need 1 more crew. And that's what I'll ask the council to do, appropriate the money for 1 crew that would fill in the gap to be able to operate that time frame with the split shift. Nobody would work 2 shifts, maybe 2 days a week. They may work the 12-hour shift. But the rest of the time is split shift, and everybody have 2 days off during the week. But anyway, that's going to be the proposal. With that saying, Mr. Chairman, I withdraw. Just take your second, I withdraw my motion.
Any questions from the council? Administration, audience? It's deferred,
That's withdrawn, Mr. Chairman.
withdrawn.
No, withdrawn.
Letter N, an ordinance to request funding of improvements needed in the Plaquemines Parish potable water system due to detrimental impacts from the planned deepening of the Mississippi River Channel to a 55-foot minimum depth by the United States Corps of Engineers and the state of Louisiana, to author Newell Engineering LLC to provide engineering services for the project and to appropriate funds for implementation of engineering work pursuant thereto.
I offer for discussion.
Mr. Bartholomew offers for discussion. I'll second.
I sent everybody a letter, communication concerning this. If you had any questions or concerns, you could call. But anyway, today I have Mr. Frank Newell up back. He can give you an overview of what we're talking about here. And if you have any questions or anything else, just go at it.
Mr. Blank?
Yeah, sure. So there's a lot of background here. I just want to be super brief. What happens here in Plaquemines Parish when the river becomes very low is a saltwater wedge backs up the river, and it can impact the drinking water supply. The dredging of the Mississippi River to 55-foot deep depth may have deleterious impacts on the system. But I'm wondering if we had any official communication with the Corps of Engineers around this issue, and is there funding in the federal appropriation for that deepening that includes provisions to the fresh water supply here?
Hey.
Maybe Mr. Newell can answer those.
Well, we have a gentleman coming. Yes, sir.
So, can I say something since I'm on the board
Ms.
here?
Newberry?
I have a question for administration. How does this tie in with the project that we have now? Is this something totally separate, or is it something?
Well, you know, Ms. Newberry, in all honesty, that's a good question because this has been hit on us. And like Mr. Black said, some of these legislations come without the knowledge of the administration. So, you know, we would like to be in these conversations with Mr. Newell. We've worked with Mr. Newell before. So we're just not sure exactly what the presentation is or what he's trying to do.
You haven't had a conversation with
No.
Mr. Newell?
No,
No, with me. Nobody contacted me from the president's office.
no,
about the
no,
situation.
no, sir.
So I could advise them, get in touch with Mr. Newell.
But, Mr. Bartholomew, when you got the legislation, you could have said, contact the administration office.
I just sent you a letter, sir.
You didn't send me a letter.
Did we send a letter to Mr. President's office? Yes, sir. All right. Or email, okay, well, we sent something. And I apologize if you didn't get it, Mr. President.
Okay, thank you.
But I sent it.
Mr. Newell?
I'm Frank Newell, manager, owner of Newell Engineering. I'm a civil engineer, land surveyor. John asked me to come down today. I was talking with Councilman Bartholomew a while back, and the fact that the Corps and the state are deepening the river came up. And I mentioned to the councilman that it was my understanding that when that occurred, that there should be an existing agreement in between the parish that would kick in and the Corps that would kick in to help the parish to deal with the detrimental effects to the water system. When I mentioned that, John asked me to put together a program or a concept for bringing to the parish government and moving forward to bring that to your attention so you are aware of that. And Councilman Blank basically, I believe, outlined the basics of it that when the channel's deepened, it makes it more likely that salt water can get into the river during low river and impact your water supply. So with that in mind, I developed a program keeping in mind that I understand y'all are having financial troubles these days. So I tried to minimize it to the minimal effort that I could put forward and develop a responsible program for addressing this. The program that I came up with was to assemble the old agreements that included mitigating for a 45-foot channel, meet with the parish administration, the parish water system operators, engineers, get a list of, assess what projects would be necessary or desirable to deal with it. And let me also mention another thing. There may be other projects that occurred previously that should be reimbursable through the agreements. And then contact the state and the Corps and bring this to their attention and ask for assistance in the implementation due to the channel deepening project. So that's basically what I did, and I was asked to come down here today to go over that and answer any questions that could come up. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you, Mr. Roussel.
Mr. Newell?
Yes.
And Mr. Bartholomew, thank you for bringing this issue forward. Over the last several years since I've been back, we had discussed this in and out of meetings, and no effort had been made to really pursue this. And I know that you were instrumental in the last time we did this. We have to thank y'all for the water line that goes from Belle Chase to Venice. That big line, I don't know what it is, a 20-inch line, then it
Yes,
goes
sir.
to whatever. That was all mitigated because of the deepening of the Mississippi River. And it goes back some 20, 30 years. And I know people say, what have you done in 20, 30 years? Well, if you go back there, you'll see. We have also were able to expropriate property and enlarge the Belle Chase water plant on the footprint that the new tank is on now, all out of money that came out of an effort like this. My question, though, is for $30,000, I think that you must have the knowledge of the agreements in the past because you lived it, you built it, and we're here today talking about what's the next step. Do you feel confident that the agreements that have been signed in the past will bear fruit?
I believe it will, Benny. With the Corps, it's impossible to predict it certainly, but I think it will. And I think it'll bear fruit for the parish for a very simple reason. These agreements were basically developed in the late 80s, early 90s. That's a long time ago. If for nothing else, there's been enough changes in the systems and in the Mississippi River that it'll, I believe, be very, very beneficial to the parish to revisit the issue and see, are there other things that we should be added beyond what was included previously. So I think it'll be beneficial, yes, and I think it'll work, yes.
I guess my second question is that with this initial $30,000 investment, I don't want to be here again appropriating more money without some fruit.
I agree with that. That's why I tried to do the minimum I could do to where we can get an answer, are y'all gonna do something for us? And that's what this is.
From your recollection of the agreements, do you think that there, again, I'm asking this question redundantly, do you think that there's language in there that opens the door for us?
I think it will. I do not have the agreement exactly. I know a lot about it. One of the things is to get the agreement and make sure. I believe we will, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Blank?
Sure. Mr. Newell, in these efforts, are you going to leverage the deepening of the Mississippi River in regards to our freshwater supply as an attempt to close Mardi Gras Pass?
No, that's not, I would not do that. That's a separate project. But you brought up Mardi Gras Pass, and I will bring up something that I do believe that is related to that. And that is that it became apparent when I worked on Mardi Gras Pass, which I believe has been successful in getting CPRA to realize they got an issue, and I think the funding's coming into place. Now, how that happens, we'll see going forward. But it became an issue. What is the plan with the East Bank below Bohemia, where the federal, where the levee's in, 3 or 4 miles downriver from here? Because some of the comments that we got on Mardi Gras Pass was that the Mardi Gras Pass, let's just let it go because there's all kinds of breaks down the road anyway. Okay? Now, that may be very true, but if that is true, then what is the impact on the Plaquemines Parish water supply? Not to mention St. Bernard and Orleans, by the way. And what is the Corps and the state's plan for dealing with that? So in a way, it can come in that way, Councilman.
Well, we need to stick to the water plant.
Yeah, that is the water, but you asked a question, I believe I think that's correct.
Thank you. Any other questions from the council?
Yeah, I'll ask for a deferral on this so the administration can get a handle. It's up to Mr. Bartholomew.
Yeah, I'd be glad to meet with the administration.
He just introduced it for discussion.
That was the intention, Mr. Newberry, when I said that, just for discussion only.
Okay. Sorry.
Because we wanted the administration to have full support and be aware of what's going on, what needs to be done. Not rushing anything against nobody.
Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Thank you, Mr. Newell.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
9O, a resolution conditionally approving the plan of re-subdivision of a portion of Tract 5-E, Section B of Belle Chase Plantation into Cypress Park Subdivision Phase 2. The subdivision to be constructed in 2 phases. Phase 2A containing lots 121 through 169 and lots 185 through 210, and Phase 2B containing lots 170 through 184 and lots 211 through 240, all without cost to the Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Black?
I'll offer with the addition on line 62 of 32819 and on line 64, 7920. Ask for a second.
Second.
Mr. Black offered and Mr. Hallborough second.
Yeah, just simple. We had this discussion a couple weeks ago in which the council had asked the developer to address some of the issues that one of the neighbors had. I believe the attorney for the developer sent some photographs of the ditches and things that were done to alleviate her issue. I think that's been resolved. So I'd ask for your support.
Any other questions from the council? Administration? Audience? Machine's open. It passes 7-2.
P, an ordinance to amend and as amended readopt Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances, Section 2-17, Rules of Transaction of Business Before Council, Chapter 2, Rule 19A, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Alborough?
I offer.
Mr. Alborough offers his second. I'll second by Dr. Gouy. Mr. Alborough?
Yes, this is simply to move the approval of the prior council meeting minutes up before the district updates. There's several instances where some of us leave early, and there was actually one instance where the approval of the minutes did not happen. Most of our fellow surrounding government entities actually do the approval of the prior meetings at the beginning of the meeting, but I'm just asking to move it up slightly just to make sure that it's getting taken care of on the agenda.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, I don't really see the need to adopt this, because if we follow your line of thinking and move it up, then I will leave and not listen to any of your discussions on item H.
Any other questions?
Joyce.
Administration? Audience? Machine's open. It passes 5-4.
Q, a resolution ordering and calling a special election to be held in the parish of Plaquemines, state of Louisiana, to amend the existing charter for local self-government of Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, making application to the State Bond Commission in connection therewith, and providing for other matters in connection therewith.
Offer for discussion only.
Mr. Alborough offered for discussion only. I'll second. Mr. Alborough?
Yes, as y'all aware, I've discussed this with most of y'all. This is something that has been on the table before. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like I can get the votes to make it happen. We were trying to get this done in accordance with all the laws to get it on the ballot in time so that when our terms are up during that election, if this would pass, that it would fall in line with that so that we wouldn't have shortened terms or someone running for an office that would only be in for a few months. As I stated earlier, this is only to put this to the vote of the people. Since the budget hearing especially, this has been talked about way before I became a council member through the years. I believe it's come up several times in the past. But especially since the budget constraints, this is a great way for us to eliminate 4 positions, 4 salaries. And, with the upcoming redistricting, the census numbers that we should be receiving, we will, see a big influx of council members in the Belle Chasse area. And again, so this is just, after research and talking to a lot of people, several of us feel this is the best thing for the parish as a whole going forward so that each person's represented in an equal manner.
Mr. LaFrance?
Yes, is there a problem with the form of government that we have?
This is to reduce. Several people feel that large governments are ineffective. Again, budget constraints. And with the new census numbers that will be coming out, if you just look at the voter registration numbers, you're going to see a huge influx of members. And initially looking, there's going to be at minimum 6 council members in the Belle Chasse area alone. All we're trying to do is try to even out the playing field by having two at-large members. One has to reside from the East Bank or lower Plaquemines Parish. The other has to reside in the Belle Chase area. But just as we elect a parish president, district parish-wide, these two representatives would also be voted on by the entire parish. So ultimately, one person would have up to 4 representatives that they could call and ask for help.
So you're looking to save 4 positions?
I'm sorry?
You're looking to save 4 positions?
Well, it would be 2 council positions, 2 assistant positions, depending on if the council member has an assistant or not, but
Well, Mr. Arbor, I will let you know, if you introduce this, I will enter an amendment that we go back to the 9 council members, commission council form of government, with no parish president, no directors, so that eliminates 4 positions at higher salary. And each council member would have executive power, would have executive duties, and each council member that's term limited right now, they will be able to run for 1 extra term. I'm just letting you know.
that would also go to the vote of the people.
Right.
So both would be on the ballot, and we'll let the people decide.
Ms. Newberry?
I just have a question. Do you have the numbers on how much we would be saving by any chance?
Not in front of me, no.
Mr. Roussel?
Mr. Arbor, if you were sincere about saving money, you would have addressed Mr. Lepine's budget and accepted it when he reduced the administrative assistants to 0, which saves a hell of a lot more money than 2 council members. And I think that you're stepping regressively back, 7 representatives versus 9 representatives. It's a reduction in representatives, no matter where they live or who they vote for. So I'm going to leave it at that. If you discarded this for discussion only, I'm not going to say any more, and I'll wait till it becomes a serious issue.
Mr. Black?
Yeah, Mr. LaFrance brought up an interesting point, and I wonder if that's possible to have 2 proposals on the ballot and let the people decide on which form of government they want. I mean, I would agree with that. You know, I mean, I think that's a very interesting endeavor, and you know, if Mr. LaFrance would support having the people decide on a 5 and 2, I would certainly support allowing the voters to make a decision on your proposal. I think ultimately it's up to the people, and if that's your choice, you know, that is a form of government that I'm interested in seeing as well, looking through it. I think you make some good points there. So, you know, I think having both on the ballot would be, as Mr. Gouy, I think, went through before.
That's what it was
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, that's all I have. I would ask you to pull it to a vote.
Any other questions from the board? Administration? Audience?
Can I call it to a vote?
Call the vote, but I'm not voting for it.
Let's get the audience.
Mr. Black, I see you would like to throw them dice, huh? But I would not agree totally with you saying, Mr. LaFrance, but I think at one time, before they had 9, the parish used to have a 10-ward system. Maybe y'all don't know that history, you know? So my thing is, if you're gonna put something, I love the 10-ward system, then you're really talking about saving some money? That was a much cheaper form of government when you went to the 10-ward. So if you look at all the things y'all talking about, the 10-ward system was nowhere near expensive as none of proposed. But I would totally be against the 7 because it dilutes the vote. Now, the most important thing I think everybody need to remember, because even when they changed it from the 5-member commission council to a 9-member, I never forget the day when Mr. Petrovich, God bless the dead, he saw opportunity because the Perez had some kind of legal thing taking place, and Petrovich thought it was a good thing to grandstand, so he decided to put there was a need for black voter registration on the ballot. You know, not that he was into black voter registration, but he just wanted to throw some egg in Mr. Perez's face. And I never forget that because I challenged both of them. I said, why, instead of we talking about voter registration, why don't we put it before the voters and let the voters, not this government, put it on the ballot, but why don't we have public hearing throughout the parish and let the parish decide the difference between 5 and 2? Just to put it on the ballot and people are not educated on it, it would mess people up. To me, the correct thing to do is to bring both of these or 3 proposals for the people and educate them on what it's about. To me, that would be the ideal thing to do than just throwing the dice. Because we figure, well, maybe throw the dice, it just might come in my favor 5-2, Well, I'm just not a gambler. I don't like gambling. I like to do things the right way and not go and vote on luck because I operate on faith. To me, before I would even put anything on the ballot, I would do like we did when we dropped the suit with Ernest Johnson and Merlis Broussard. We had public hearing throughout the parish. And the public hearing determined that we had 9 members because every person had a chance to go to those districts and voice why they were for things. That way people are educated. Then just saying put it on the ballot and people don't really understand it because it sounds good, because 5-2 sound good, you're saving money, but they're not educated. So my suggestion is not putting anything on the ballot. My suggestion would be that we have public hearings throughout the parish, not just on what you all say, but on looking at going back. If you want to go back. Go back to the 10-ward system so people can understand. That would be my recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards.
Elton Frederick, 108 Victor's Road, Belchasse. In 1975, Ernest Johnson and Merlis Broussard filed a suit against Plaquemines Parish for the form of government they had. It wasn't, people that didn't have proper representation. Judge Hebe, he ordered, he ruled for them, and he ordered, the parish voters, that the parish voters have a choice in the form of government that they had, and the reason we ended up with 9 council districts is because at that time, the East Bank was 1/9 of the population, and because the river, divided the parish up in the middle, they wanted the East Bank to have, representation, and so that's how we ended up with the 9 districts. And I mean, no matter how you put it, it's even if you manage to get this to a vote, if it managed to pass or whatever, there's going to be lawsuits again. We're gonna you have to follow this this order. It's going to go back to that, the federal court order, and so. And I don't know, this is, like you said, it's been brought up over the years, that it would save money, to have a couple less councilmen or whatever, but that's, to me, it's always brought up by the same people that said that, building a new ferry ramp 8 miles down from the ferry was going to save the parish money when we already had it, and, the same people that brought us the Port East that we're now paying money on, and that was supposed to be a big boom for the parish and everything, So instead of doing this, let's work on other problems we have, keeping the parish together. And, if there's people right now, I mean, you're not discussing the ferry situation, but, there's people that it's affecting people on the East Bank and the West Bank. You know, people that like to go to Balestras and for their meat or Jean Fro's and stuff, you know, now they got to go to St. Bernard Parish because they can't just run across the river there, you know, and people that work on the West Bank, you know, but anyway, this is the kind of dividing the parish, and it makes no sense because I guarantee you there's gonna, it's, you know, it's not gonna, you know, we're still gonna go back to that lawsuit, and if anything, if I would recommend that people in the East Bank, you know, should maybe just do like the people of Grand Isle did when they had, you know, when they said Grand Isle only had a small percentage of the population or whatever, and they put it up for
Your time's up, but
okay.
we appreciate
But
it.
anyway, you know, maybe just go over to the East Bank ought to just become part of St. Bernard Parish and become their own parish and keep their own royalties over here, you know.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yeah, I do believe that the Santa Cruz still is in existence. That has to be changed. You have to challenge that and request permission from the federal judge or the courts to do away with that. There's no time that where this would resolve or dissolve itself. This is in court. Still let it exist. Then the other thing, the charter specifically states what the government is. So the referendum that you'll have to deal with is not only what the people said, but what the federal court says. Because it's just not that simple. 'Cause we wasn't all that great and that good in the past. Maybe not that good today either, I don't know, you know. So that is the reason why it existed, and it still exists. It's just not by choice, it's by necessity. And if we look at the makeup, it's not the government, the council is the problem. It's not the council with the problem with the funding, by a long shot. And if it is, then we take a cut. Everybody take a cut and be done. But examine the whole governmental financial status. You know, excuse me, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to do a little bit. Whenever we change employees, it seems as though we should start at the beginning of that position that have been allocated. Not where that person left off at, but where that job begins, at that pay scale. But we don't do that. We put the money in the budget to whomever had left it, whatever that salary was, that's what we put in. We didn't go back to the conception of the beginning salaries, which is a whole lot different than what a lot of people are making today. And I don't think they earn that because they haven't proven themselves to get there. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bartholomew. Any other questions? Mr. Alborough?
You mind removing your second so I can read?
I'll remove my second.
I'd like to offer as read.
Mr. Alborough offers, is there a second? I'll second. Mr. Gui seconds. Any other questions? Machine's open.
Get it done.
And it passes 5-4. It passed. To put it on a ballot for the people to vote on. To go to the 5 and 4. 5 and 2. Ms. Marquette?
R, an ordinance to amend the 2021 general fund manpower structure.
Well, I want to see if Mr. Arborough going to support it since he want to cut expenditures.
An ordinance to amend the 2021 general fund manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, Director of Operations Department, to amend the 2021 general fund manpower and operating expenditure budget, Director of Administration Department, to amend the 2021 general fund manpower and operating expenditure budget, Director of Public Services Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. LaFrance?
So offered.
Mr. LaFrance offers, as a second? I'll second. Mr. LaFrance.
Yes. Mr. Arbor, I want to know, are you going to support this?
No, sir, I'm not.
Oh, okay. So it's not about money. You remove your second,
I'll
defer
remove
it.
my second.
I'll defer it.
Ordinance is deferred.
Before we move on, I just want to say,
No, sir. Ms. Marquette, 9S.
A resolution granting conditional approval for a plan of subdivision of Mark and Michelle Talion, tract S-1-C-2, Julius G. Foster partition, Belle Chase, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, into tracts S-2-A through S-2-D, Julius G. Foster partition, Belle Chase, Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, is shown on the map of subdivision by John E. Bonneau and Associates, Inc., a low company dated October 22nd, 2020, without cost to Plaquemines Parish government or the parish of Plaquemines.
Mr. Blink. Mr. Blink,
not in the queue anymore.
what do you want to do?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Do you want to offer?
What's that?
Do you offer?
Yes, I'd like to offer.
Mr. Blink offers as second.
Second.
Ms. Newberry seconds. Mr. Blink.
Sure. I mean, this is a subdivision that's very similar to others in the area. This is near Pelican Place.
Mr. Roussel.
Yes, this subdivision is not complying with the ordinance. The fire department and the public service has denied this, so I would oppose the subdivision.
Now, from what I'm
Yes.
understanding is the folks that are subdividing this have put in a fire hydrant and spent around $20,000 doing so?
I'm going by the documents that were presented to me from the directors, and it says from Mr. Roy Robichaux that they don't have it. If they put it in, it could possibly be good, but they have denied it to this point. So this is conditioned upon them putting in the fire hydrant or not? Doesn't say that.
Mr. Robichaux?
Mr. Appling.
That's what I saw in the documents.
Is he still employed with the parish?
He's a volunteer chief.
No, he's not. He's a volunteer fire chief.
Got it.
I did not see Mr. Robichaux's comments. I saw it, Infomark's comments, and I signed the approval on the sheet that I had.
Says on this one you disapproved.
What it says here.
I will have to defer it and try to find out what's going on.
Mr. Blink. What's your wishes?
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that it made it to the table without these things being sorted out.
Should have read
My
it.
apologies. All right, we're going to defer it.
Deferring.
Mr. Chairman, can you go back to 9Q for a second?
Go back to 9Q.
So I just want to provide a little clarification on this. What the council adopted was a resolution to call an election. When you look at that resolution that calls the election, it refers to an ordinance with amendments to the charter. That ordinance was introduced today, and it provides the proposed amendments to the charter. So at the next council meeting, that ordinance will need to pass in order for the whole measure to be submitted to the bond commission and pass through the Secretary of State's office to be put on the April 24th ballot. So I just want to make it clear that just because a resolution passed today doesn't mean it's automatic that it'll be on the ballot April 24th. At the next council meeting, the council, at least 5 members, would have to vote in the affirmative to submit the ordinance as well with the proposed language change.
All right, Ms. Marquette.
T, an ordinance to amend the 2021 manpower structure and operating expenditure budget, road maintenance fund, road maintenance bridges department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Blink.
I'd like to offer.
Mr. Blink offers. There's a second. Second by Mr. Auburn. Mr. Blink.
Offer is read.
Any questions from the council? Administration? Ordinance? Machines open. road maintenance. The record show 8 with 1 absent.
9U has been deferred. Mr. Chairman, I have 2 more introductions to read into the record.
Yes, ma'am.
These are for Councilmember Bartholomew. A resolution requesting a local bill be filed on behalf of the Plaquemines Parish Council in the 2021 regular session of the Louisiana Legislature relative to the Ward 4 Justice of the Peace Court in Plaquemines Parish and to provide for related matters. An ordinance creating an additional ferry schedule for the Belle Chase and Point de la Hache ferries and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. And that is it for the additional introductions.
Thank you. I'd like to defer 10B.
10C,
Deferred.
10D.
10D, District 1 update.
Deferred mine.
Or
You could defer Mr. LaFrance, Ms. Newberry.
Defer.
Defer them all. 11.
Approval of the minutes from the January 14, 2021 regular meeting.
I'll offer, ask for a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Newberry. Machine's open.
Mr. Bartholomew?
Like to make a motion?
Mr. Bartholomew?
Yes, please.
It passes 8-0. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Offered.
Mr. Alborough, motion. Mr. Blink, second. Machine's open.
Ready.
Let it show 8-0. Council meeting's adjourned at 6:53.